Criminals captured. Jedi Master Plo Koon and Padawan Ahsoka Tano successfully thwarted an attempt on Mace Windu's life, killing bounty hunter Aura Singh in the process. Since that time, young Ahsoka has grown strong in the ways of the Force. Now, after several harrowing adventures alongside her master, the two Jedi have returned to the temple on Coruscant to receive their next mission.
Oh, greetings once again, Bucketheads. Mavar Tigar. Welcome to the 109th Precarious Force Premonition promoting episode of Mandovision. Nar Guy Tom, and thank you so much for checking out our very fun, our very independent, our very small Star Wars podcast. Remember, the best way to reach out to us is, of course, via social media. We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. Email the show at mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. How are we doing, Bucketheads? We are just rolling along. It is the Monday of Thanksgiving here in the States, so that means things are getting crazy at the supermarket. Don't go to the supermarket. I hope you got your supplies, your provisions. I hope you're set now, because the lines, the parking, the joy of the season is upon us, and we must brace for impact. If you do go out, I recommend highly keeping your buckets on at all times, because it's just safer that way. You never know, you might get hit in the head with a jar of cranberry sauce. It's not going to be pleasant. I don't recommend it very often. At all. I don't recommend it at all. I don't know why I said very often. Anyways, we are here. We are excited. We are back once again for another exciting Star Wars The Clone Wars Rewatch Mondays. And we got a doozy for you today. I'm really excited to talk about this one. A delightful episode, if I do say so myself. Before we get into that, though, there was some news that broke the other day. You may have caught it, actually, on Thursday or Friday. But it appears that Dark Horse Comics is reacquiring a Star Wars license, and at some point in 2022 will begin publishing new Star Wars comics. Now, that's exciting. I'm a big fan of Dark Horse and what they did to keep the Star Wars flame lit for so many years while there was no new films or TV shows or anything like that to keep us busy, keep us happy. You know, Dark Horse carried the mantle for a long time, and I'll be eternally grateful to them for doing so. But you know, they lost the license when Disney acquired Star Wars and when Disney acquired Marvel, and they just brought everything in-house. And now that's not to say Marvel is not publishing Star Wars comics. No. That's all still staying in there. The main sort of more teen to adult oriented comics, like Star Wars, like Darth Vader, like Dr. Aphra, like the Bounty Hunters comic, those are staying at Marvel. That stays put. But what we're talking about is an all ages license. So Dark Horse will be doing an all ages book. Now, we don't have a lot of clarity on if that means that local San Diego-based publisher IDW will be losing the book or not, or if they're going to somehow juggle sharing the license for all age comics. I'm not sure on that. There's not a lot of clarity on that at the moment. We are waiting for a little bit more information, and maybe by the next time we record, we'll have some clarity on that, and I'll pass it along to you. So as excited as I am for Dark Horse to have the license once again and to begin publishing Star Wars comics next year, I will be equally sad that IDW loses the license because they've done some really great stuff, especially in the all ages realm for Star Wars. I'm a big fan of the Vader's Castle comics and the Star Wars adventure books that Kevin Scott's been doing with Jackson, bringing Jackson back into the fold. So much of that stuff has been really, really wonderful and really, really nice, and a good change of pace, if you will. And so I'll be sad if they lose that license. I hope there's something mutually beneficial for both publishers, and obviously with IDW, I'm partial. I'm a little biased because they're right here in my hometown. So I'd love to see them keep doing Star Wars stuff. It'd be a lot of fun for me. But again, hopefully it's a mutually beneficial situation, and everyone will keep making Star Wars because as we say on the podcast, more Star Wars isn't a bad thing. So there you go. But let's talk about this week's episode of the show, or today's episode of the show, because we do 2 shows a week. We are here for season 3, episode 7, Assassin. Original air date was October 22nd, 2010. Our plot for this week's show: Ahsoka receives visions about Aura Singh attempting to assassinate Padme Amidala and decides to accompany the senator on a peace mission to Alderaan. Alderaan's fun. We like going to Alderaan, don't we? At least, pre A New Hope. This week's director is Kyle Dunleavy, and the episode's written solely by Katie Lucas this week. Our cast, once again: the amazing Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka Tano, Catherine Tabor as Padme Amidala, Matt Lanter as Anakin Skywalker, James Mathis III as Captain Typho, the medical droid, Captain Typho and the medical droid. Tom Kane is our narrator and Yoda. Phil Lamar is Bail Organa and Senate Guard number 2. Corey Burton is Zero the Hutt / Senate Guard number 1. Jamie King returns as Aura Singh. James Arnold Taylor is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Plo Koon. And Terrence T.C. Carson very briefly appears as Mace Windu. That is our cast this week. Our Jedi fortune cookie: the future has many paths. Choose wisely. That's like out of Temple of Doom, Temple of Doom. That's like Last Crusade stuff right there. We're looking at the Holy Grail, and you got to choose wisely. But again, that also plays into our theme for this episode, talking about the premonitions, Ahsoka's premonitions of the future, her interpreting Force visions, and how best to address those, how to deal with those, how to process those, how to interpret those. So yes, making the right choice, and we see a little bit of all of it in this episode. So it's a really fun episode. I like the notion of Jedis with premonition and getting into sort of trying to understand those visions, interpret those visions, because one of the fun elements of prophecy in other mediums of fiction aside from Star Wars is sort of the misinterpretation of prophecy, and so it's always a fun storytelling theme when done well. And I think they do a really solid job in this episode. So I am definitely excited to talk about it. I don't know, premonition. Oh, excuse me, I lost my train of thought for a half second there. I was gonna say I'm actually reading Kevin Scott's Dooku Lost Jedi novelization. You can get it as an audio drama on Audible, and I'm listening to it as I'm reading it. So I'm kind of doing both things depending on where I'm at and what's going on in my life at the time. I've been enjoying both, actually. The book's really nice, but the full cast in the audio is on the Audible version is fantastic as well, and really lends a lot to the story. And if you know that story, we focus on a very young Count Dooku from his time as an initiate, up to being a Padawan, up to being a master, and his friend, a initiate he grows up with at the temple, is Jedi Master. Well, he becomes a master eventually, but is the Jedi known as Sifo Dyas, the Jedi who orders the creation of the clone army when Obi-Wan goes to Kamino to investigate in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And one of Sifo Dyas's struggles as a Jedi is he is sort of cursed with the ability of Force premonition, and his sort of struggles with that. And again, I'm a little over halfway through the book, and I don't want to get too much into it, but it's a really strong driving force for Sifo Dyas, and I think we all kind of know where it's going to head to, with him seeing the Clone Wars and him seeing the Republic in a dark place and taking it upon himself, or perhaps with Dooku's urging, to create the clone army. I'm excited to see where it goes. Again, I remind everyone, please don't give me too hard of a time about that. I am catching up on new canon novelizations now, basically. I am a little behind, but I'm getting there. So yeah, but it did sort of turn into be a sort of funny duality with the way the two themes came up with this episode of the show as I'm reading that novelization. So interesting timing. All right, let's get into the episode proper. Let's go ahead and talk about season 3, episode 7, Assassin. I can't wait. I'm excited. But you know what you got to do first? It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Dreams, you say?
Yes, dreams. Or visions. I don't know. But they're so real.
Premonitions. Telling you something, they are.
I know I reported otherwise. But I believe that Aura Singh isn't dead. She's still alive. And she's preparing to kill someone close to me.
So, you begin to see the true power of the Force. Visions they are. Underestimate them. You must not. Meditate. To see clearly, more experience you need.
So as you'll note, we are picking up sort of where we left off back at the Boba Fett series with Aura Singh attempting to escape from trying, the whole botched plot to murder Mace Windu, heading to Hondo's hideout. We're going back into season 2 stuff, and sort of like where we think Aura Singh is dead after Ahsoka has disabled one of the stabilizers on the ship that is formerly known as Slave One. We don't know what it's currently called because they seem to be not wanting to address that at this particular point in time. But we're mature. We know what that ship is called for, political correctness has a place. But for simplicity's sake, we will just call it Slave One. Ahsoka has disabled it. Aura Singh crashes off into the distance. We find out, and as we already knew, not the end of Aura Singh. So now Ahsoka is having dreams and forced premonitions about Aura Singh attempting to murder someone that she is close to. So she consults with Master Yoda, the wisest of them all, for guidance. And it's a good chat. There's a lot of good chats in this episode. Before that scene, though, we do get to see a Jedi Council with Plo Koon, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu on it, which is exciting. I feel like they never made a big deal about Obi-Wan's promotion to the Jedi Council, whether in Clone Wars or in the films at all. He just in Episode 3, he's just kind of there, and I was like, oh, I feel like that should have been like a cooler moment for Obi-Wan, but maybe the Jedi just downplay it. And hey, it is what it is. So Anakin's gonna go on a mission, and Ahsoka's to remain behind after the situation with Hondo and Aura Singh and Boba Fett, and this is what leads to the premonitions. She's supposed to stay on Coruscant, focus on her studies, but she's being pursued by these nightmares. We see a scene in the Jedi archives. She's attempting to further her studies and is troubled by another vision, and it's a more detailed vision. And this is when Ahsoka gets the realization that Padme is indeed the target. We find out that Padme is getting ready to go to a conference on Alderaan dealing with war refugees, which is a real topic that one of those real things that I wish they would talk a little bit more about on certain episodes of the show, because sometimes it's, as much fun as the action is to follow and as much fun as it is to stay focused on the Jedi, Sith, and the big overarching things. I've said it before on the show. I like it when Star Wars gets down into the muck and we spend time with like the real characters, the real people that are sort of being affected by the Star Wars and the Clone Wars, the mass displacement of people, of beings from their planets, from their societies, from their civilizations. It's got to be epic in scope, and I like it when you kind of get into some of those nitty-gritty details in Star Wars. We get another vision. Again, each time Ahsoka gets a vision, you'll notice more and more details, more and more clarity on everything. And I think as the audience member, we begin to wonder, because we're starting to see things. How much is Ahsoka able to interpret? How much is she able to process in a way that she's going to be able to act on to make sure these things do not come to pass? Or will her actions be what brings about the visions that she sees? And that's always the risk with interpreting and acting on a premonition, at least as a theme in overarching popular fiction. Let's go ahead and check in on another clip, because there's a couple good clips in this episode. I want to go ahead and play them for you, so check this one out right now.
I am sure now that it is Senator Amidala who is in danger.
Senator Amidala, you say?
Yes, Master. I've seen it in my visions.
Choose you must how to respond to your visions. But remember, always in motion is the future, and many possible futures there are.
Yes, Master.
So even despite warning Padme of her visions, and Padme believes her, Padme trusts in Ahsoka, but Ahsoka's unsure what to do, how to act, how to follow up on these things. After this next vision and talking to Yoda once again, Ahsoka decides that it's time to be more direct, and she's going to escort Padme Amidala to this conference on Alderaan as a sort of extra layer of protection from this perceived assassination attempt at the hands of Aurra Sing. And so that's what we get, and we get to spend a little time with the two characters, Ahsoka and Padme. I think have some really nice bonding moments in this episode, particularly on the transit from Coruscant to Alderaan. There's some nice conversation in there. We see them playing Dejarik together. Always nice to see the characters playing Dejarik. In case it's not clicking, that is the circular sort of chess-looking game that Chewbacca and R2-D2 play in A New Hope. It's Dejarik. That's what that's called. In case anyone is unfamiliar. Yeah, so really solid moments with the characters. They're sort of bonding, connecting with each other. Ahsoka shows a lack of confidence, a lack of belief in herself, and and she struggles to interpret these visions and how to act on them. And Padme's there to sort of boost her up and remind her that, like, well, listen, I believe in you. I believe that you know what you're doing. I believe that you will act accordingly when the time is right. And it sort of is a nice buoy for Ahsoka's character as she sort of is in this precarious position. And again, especially because she's away from her master. That's another element to this episode that makes it so interesting, because she's not there to have, okay, as she put it in the episode, she's not there to have Anakin's back in the field of battle, but vice versa is applicable here too. Anakin's not there to have her back. So the sounding board relationship that they have with one another is not in play in this episode. So Ahsoka having that with Padme is very interesting, very unique, and I like that sort of dynamic between these two strong female characters in this episode. I think it's really nice. I think it plays well, and lends a lot to this relationship that, it's so. I'm going to trail off here a little bit. I wanted to point out, I think I've talked about it before, but it's so interesting how neatly the Clone Wars fits in between episodes 2 and 3 of the films, because again, maybe some people brush up against it, maybe it rubs some people the wrong way when you watch episodes 2 and 3 cinematically, and then you go back and try to watch this, and you're like, well, I don't understand, why don't they even talk about Ahsoka Tano in episode 3? And and obviously those of us who pay attention to the dates on things was they didn't have that plan in place at the time, so there was no reference to her. But also at the same time, the third film, it's like nonstop action. Like, there's so much that goes on in that film, and there's so many Jedi doing so many different things. They established very early on in the show that the characters are all over the place at different points in the timeline and in relation to each other. So it's perfectly, to me, looking back at it now, it makes a perfect amount of sense that Ahsoka could still be off-world handling the Mandalorian situation and the Darth Maul situation, and Anakin has to rush back to Coruscant to save Chancellor Palpatine. It all makes sense, and then it all makes sense because, again, that film moves so quickly that when Order 66 is given and Ahsoka's on the ship, it all just makes sense. It does. And I know some people, again, and I think it's mostly old people like me, who sort of have like that weird sticking point about it. But the Clone Wars does a really nice job of seamlessly weaving its way between the raindrops of continuity. And I this is one of those things I wanted to applaud it for. And I picked that up in this episode in particular because I liked seeing this developing relationship between Padme and Ahsoka. These characters have had interaction before, but this is an episode where they have quiet moments together. It's not about being in action or in the war zone. So I really dug that. I really enjoyed it. And now we'll get back into the episode proper. Okay, Ahsoka, again, at night on the ship. They're not at Alderaan yet. They're still in transit. Ahsoka has another vision. She interprets it incorrectly. We see her spring to action to defend Padme when there is no danger. Jumping into her room, alerting the guards, and there's no one there. but she thought the danger was there because in her vision, Aura Singh was there in her face, telling her that the game is afoot. Okay, not quite, but you know what I mean. It has begun, and so Ahsoka springs into action, thinking that that's the moment, that it's happening now, not interpreting the vision correctly. So I think that's one of the important parts of the story too. Is Ahsoka gets a lot of information. She has a lot of visions in this episode, and each one provides a little bit more clarity, a little bit more information. But I like that early on, she's making bad decisions. She's not sort of letting the vision play out and then seeing how to adapt to it and prevent it. She's just trying to prevent it. She's trying to go from A to Z. She's not following along, letting it play out to the point where she can intercede. She's just simply trying to stop it, period. And the Force visions are not that specific, It's not telling you, they're not giving you enough of the juicy details to completely prevent something from happening. But it's giving you enough information that if you can interpret it correctly, you can stop the thing that it's warning you about. Not as clean cut as you might want to, but it's giving you just enough to get there just in time, as works well for a fictionalized television series that relies on drama and tension. All right, let's play another clip.
What is it? I'm confused. My visions are telling me one thing, but reality is telling me another. I don't know which to believe anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe no one's out to kill you.
So as Ahsoka begins to doubt herself more and more, that is when everything begins. As the conference begins, as Padme makes her way to the dais to address the gathering of senators and bureaucrats and important do-good leaders of the galaxy, or we see Aura Singh making her move, making her way to the chamber to begin her plan to assassinate Padme Amidala at this conference here on Alderaan. This sort of this is when Ahsoka begins to interpret things a little bit more astutely, and she's able to feel the premonition, feel the danger, locate it, and track down Aura Singh just as she's about to fire the shot that would kill Padme. She's able to yank the blaster just in time so that it's a small flesh wound to Padme's arm. But Aura runs, and Ahsoka's unable to track her down and pin her down and capture her. But she has prevented the assassination, but Aura's still on the run, and they know there'll be another attempt. This is when there's sort of a, half-baked plan from Ahsoka so that Padme can be kept in safety, not being exposed at the conference. They're going to use like a robotic decoy that Padme will use a transponder, a transmitter to talk through from the safety of her chambers through this droid that is going to have like a cloak, and everyone's going to think it's her, and it's supposed to smoke out Ahsoka. It's supposed to smoke out Aura Singh so they can capture her. Now, we all know Aura Singh's smarter than that. We all know that Aura Singh's not going to fall for such a foolish... Okay, not foolish, but again, it's a trap, and Aura Singh is very good at ferreting these things out. And that's exactly what she does here, because she lets the Jedi, she lets the Alderaan security forces, Bail Organa and everybody, do their little ruse. But again, Ahsoka attuning herself, quieting her mind, as Master Tara Sinube taught her in those episodes long ago, again, focuses on the danger, focuses on the room, the situation, and through the Force, determines that Aura is not there, and that the danger is back at Padme's chambers. And again, Ahsoka arrives just in time, and we get a really cool little standoff, the cool little back and forth between the two characters, and I want to play that for you right now.
You! I remember you, Jedi brat!
Stand down, assassin!
You left me for dead. Luckily, Hondo pulled me out of the wreckage.
Surprised you're back to work so soon.
Well, a girl's gotta make a living.
All right, here's a quick little pause, and then let's get to the second half of the clip.
Why are you doing this? Killing me will not stop the relief effort.
Honey, this isn't about your cause. This is about revenge. My employer wants to get even with you. Simple as that.
Who hired you?
Enough talk. Time to see what you're made of, kid.
All right, then we get some good action as Aura unleashes a volley of blaster fire that Ahsoka is able to deflect most of away from them. She does get nicked, and as she falls to the ground, because just a moment or two earlier, we saw that Padme pulled a blaster of her own, and she's able to get the drop on Aura Singh and stun her to the ground. And thus, she's detained by Alderaan security, or perhaps it might be senatorial security now that I think about it with the blue armor. And they will go back to Coruscant with Aura Singh in custody. We now get to the next part of the episode. Again, setting the stage for what's coming in next week's episode, which sets the stage for what happened at the end of season 1. Are you with me so far? Again, the non chronological order in which the episodes are played makes this all very, very interesting, very, very exciting. So get ready for these next couple of episodes as we go. We jump across the timeline, and we find out that the imprisoned Zero the Hutt has put this bounty out on Padme Amidala. And, remember, at the end of season 1, Zero broke out of jail with the help of Cad Bane. That might have some big episode next week. Might show how that came to be, how Cad Bane knew so much about the Senate layout, the halls of the Senate chambers, and how to infiltrate it. We get to see that next week. And then the week after that, the week after that, I believe, is when we get the hunt for Zero the Hutt, and we'll get to hang out with Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So we're dancing around the timeline a bit here, but it's exciting, it's fun, and it's easy to dismiss the show as a cartoon, as a kid's show. We've talked about that before. It's a mistake because this show requires you to pay attention because of the non-chronological order, because we jump around from events from here to there. It's very vital that we pay attention to the show, and that is something that it wasn't until I started watching the show that I paid more attention to. The first time around, when you're watching it on network television, you watch it every week for however many weeks they play it, and then there's usually a little break, and then it comes back for the back half after the holidays or whatever, and then you get a big gap between the seasons. And I can't speak for everyone out there, but I would forget some of these details. But before season 2 would start, or before season 3 would start, I would forget some of the smaller, minute timeline details. You remember the big arcs, you remember the big character moments, but some of those smaller details would be lost to the ether. And this rewatch has been so exciting and educational because of that non-chronological storytelling that they're employing in these early seasons. This episode, I believe, it also marks the end of Ahsoka in her sort of like tween costume, if you will. The next time we catch up with Ahsoka, she'll be in her new outfit. She'll be a bit bigger, longer montrals, and more of a young adult, if you will. So I believe this episode marks the end of that period for Ahsoka. We get Zero. Zero basically confesses when Ahsoka and Anakin confront him at the prison cells on Coruscant. And again, we're sort of setting the stage up for everything here. And that's basically the episode. Ahsoka is able to accurately able to interpret and use the Force visions to prevent the assassination of Padme Amidala. They are able to capture and detain Aura Singh, return her to custody on Coruscant, and expose the conspiracy that Zero the Hutt is trying to assassinate a senator of the new a senator of the Republic. So a lot going on in the last couple of minutes of this episode as we get to the much bigger picture of what's going on here. So really, really exciting. I like this episode a lot. This is 8 buckets. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Big fan of this one. I loved it. I hope you did too. So fun to go back to this one. Next week's episode is a bit of you know what? Before I get back on to next week's episode, my one story kink in this episode. You're on Alderaan, a peaceful world of the Republic, a very civilized world, and you're at a palace. I understand that it's large, but you have security forces. You have the senatorial, guardians, whatever you want to call them. I really don't understand where's Aura Singh hiding. That's what I want to know. Like, is this place so vast and cavernous that Aura Singh is just able to hide and not be detected ever? That's my one storytelling quirk with this episode. I did have to put that out there. But other than that, like, other than that one little question I have about, like, well, where's Aura hiding and why can no one find her? I really do dig this episode. Like I said, 8 buckets. Psh, easy. Next week, we get into some droid adventures, for better or for worse. And we'll talk about that as well. There's some good things in that episode, some interesting things, some interesting choices in that episode. But again, it serves a sort of like a larger purpose in setting up Cad Bane and his plan for when he goes to take the hostages at the Senate to ultimately free Zero the Hutt from prison. So we will be back to talk about that next show, which I think will be out Friday, the Friday after American Thanksgiving. So if you celebrate American Thanksgiving, I hope you have a great one. I hope you have a wonderful time with friends, family, loved ones, and everybody. And if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I still hope you have a great day. I hope you're doing well. I hope everything's awesome. And maybe you get the day off of work anyways, and you can just hang out and watch Star Wars. That'd be a lot of fun too. And for everybody else in other countries that, again, happy Thursday. I hope you had a great Thursday. Hope it went well for you and you had a super fun time. We'll be back on Friday to do the next episode of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. It's awesome. It's so much fun. Let me give you another reminder about this awesome little podcast that we do over here. We would love it if you would follow us on social media and tell your friends to do the same. We truly, truly appreciate it. We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. Email the show at mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, sharing, following, doing all those things with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. If possible or so inclined, remember the 5-star reviews are a great way to help the show, spread the word, and defeat the algorithm. We truly, truly appreciate it, and they really help small independent shows like us stand out, not get lost in the intergalactic shuffle. Truly, truly, truly appreciate you all. Thank you so much. All right, my name is Tom. This is the Mandovision Podcast, and I need to remind you all one more time, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
You expect me to search the galaxy for the home of this creature and deliver it to a race of enemy sorcerers?
This is the way.